Gomer Pyle!
Come on, Gomer! Come on!
Behind the innocent golly and Shazam, catchphrases of America's most beloved Marine private, a world of scandalous Hollywood secrets, personal tragedies, and bizarre production mishaps was unfolding. The beloved World War II sitcom Hogan's Heroes seems almost simple in comparison to the complex and often dark reality behind Gomer Pyle, USMC, from a cruel prank that destroyed the friendship of two closeted Hollywood legends to the heartbreaking fact that real Marines seen marching in the opening credits would later die in the jungles of Vietnam. The untold story of this wholesome sitcom is anything but simple. Get ready, because these 15 shocking revelations will forever change the way you see Mayberry's most famous and naive recruit. 15. Gomer's middle name was a secret prop detail. Television fans who love discovering hidden details about their favorite characters were given a rare treat in the first season episode titled Payday. In a brief close-up shot of Gomer's military paycheck, it was revealed that his middle name begins with the letter S. This small but intriguing piece of information was never once mentioned in dialogue throughout the entire series, leaving fans to speculate what it could stand for. This type of visual detail was typical of 1960s television production, where prop departments would often create realistic-looking documents with authentic details, even if they were only on screen for a few seconds. The fact that someone on the production team took the time to give Gomer a middle initial, however insignificant it may seem, shows the level of care that went into creating a believable military world, even in the smallest of visual details. 14. The barracks set had a glaring continuity error. Sharp-eyed viewers who paid close attention to the background details of the show could spot a glaring and consistent continuity error that revealed the limitations of 1960s television production. In the interior scenes, filmed inside Gomer's barracks building, viewers could clearly see through the windows that there were other rows of identical military barracks positioned directly across from his building, creating the realistic impression of a typical Marine base. However, whenever the show cut to exterior shots, which were filmed at a real Marine Corps facility, these supposedly visible barracks buildings completely disappeared, revealing empty space. This inconsistency occurred because the interior scenes were shot on a Hollywood studio set that used painted backdrops to create the illusion of a larger base, while the exterior shots showed the real and differently arranged military installation. The producer hated the show's filming style. Producer Aaron Rubin was a strong advocate for the multi-camera filming technique, which was the standard for most sitcoms of the era. This method allowed directors to record scenes from several different angles simultaneously, helping actors maintain their comedic timing and energy. However, Gomer Pyle, USMC's military setting required extensive outdoor filming at real Marine Corps bases, where the logistics of setting up multiple cameras were often impossible. This technical limitation forced the production team to use a single camera setup for most of the show's scenes. This meant that actors like Jim Nabors and Frank Sutton had to repeat their performances multiple times from different angles, a process Rubin disliked as he felt it drained the spontaneity from the comedic performances. 12. Ronnie Shell disappeared for an entire season to star in his own show, Ronnie Shell, who played Gomer's best friend and loyal barracks buddy. Private Duke Slater completely vanished from the show during its 4th season. The reason for his sudden disappearance was a significant career opportunity. Shell had been offered the starring role in a new CBS sitcom called Good Morning World. The show, which premiered in 1967, struggled to find an audience and was cancelled after just 1 season. With his own show finished, Shell was welcomed back to Gomer Pyle for its 5th and final season. The writers provided a clever in-story explanation for his absence and return. Duke Slater came back as a newly promoted corporal. Having supposedly completed non-commissioned officer training during the year, he was away from the series. Gomer's iconic name came from 2 real and very different people. Most television characters get their names from writers brainstorming in a room, but Gomer Pyle's iconic name came from a much more unusual source that combined two completely different real people. The writers of The Andy Griffith Show, where Gomer was first introduced, created the moniker by blending the names of a Hollywood writer named Gomer Cool and the veteran character actor Denver Pyle. Denver Pyle was already a familiar face on The Andy Griffith Show, playing the patriarch of the musical Mountain family, the Darlings. The inspiration for the character's country bumpkin personality came from a real-life encounter one of the writers had at a gas station with an incompetent attendant. The combination of these two names created something that sounded authentically rural and folksy, perfect for a character from the fictional town of Mayberry. Jim Nabors received a series of real military promotions throughout the entire 5-year run of the show. The character of Gomer Pyle never advanced past the rank of private first class. However, in real life, the United States Marine Corps decided that Jim Nabors, the actor who portrayed him, deserved better. Recognizing the immense positive public relations the show had generated for their branch during the controversial Vietnam War era, the Marine Corps awarded Nabors a series of real, honorary military promotions over a 12-year period. In 2001, they promoted him to Lance Corporal. In 2007, he was promoted again to Corporal. The final promotion came in 2013, when Nabors reached the honorary rank of Sergeant, placing him 3 full ranks above the character he famously played. 9. The show's appearance in Forrest Gump carried a dark irony. The 1994 blockbuster film, Forrest Gump, includes a brief but memorable scene where the titular character, recovering in a military hospital during the Vietnam War, is watching an episode of Gomer Pyle, U.S.M.C. on television. Director Robert Zemeckis used the clip to add a layer of historical authenticity. However, the inclusion carries a profound and dark irony. Gomer Pyle was famous for its deliberate and complete avoidance of the Vietnam War. In the Forrest Gump scene, another wounded soldier dismisses the show with harsh language, reflecting the complex and often bitter relationship that real Vietnam veterans had with popular entertainment that portrayed military life in such an unrealistically light-hearted way. CBS initially rejected the show, fearing it was for men. Only one of television's most successful and beloved spin-offs almost never made it to air, because network executives at CBS were convinced that a military-themed comedy would be a complete ratings disaster with female audiences. When producers first pitched the show in 1964, CBS executives expressed serious concerns, believing that women viewers would have no interest in a sitcom set on a Marine base. The situation reached a breaking point when legendary producer Danny Thomas threatened to take the project to NBC, CBS's primary competitor. The fear of losing a potential hit to a rival network was the only thing that changed the executives' minds. The gamble paid off spectacularly as Gomer Pyle, USMC, remained in the top 10 Nielsen ratings for its entire 5-year run. 7. Frank Sutton was rejected by the real Marines, but was a real-life war hero. The ultimate irony of Frank Sutton's career is that the actor who spent 5 years becoming the iconic image of a tough as nails, Marine gunnery sergeant, was actually rejected by the very military, branch he so famously portrayed. When World War II broke out, Sutton eagerly volunteered for the U.S. Marine Corps, but was disqualified during his physical examination for being colorblind. Undeterred, he immediately enlisted in the U.S. Army and went on to have a remarkably heroic military career. As a sergeant, he participated in an extraordinary 14 assault landings throughout the brutal South Pacific Theater. His real-life combat experience was far more dangerous than anything his television character ever faced, and it gave him an authentic understanding of military life that he brought to his iconic portrayal. 6. Frank Sutton paid for his own USO tours to active combat zones in Vietnam. Frank Sutton's respect for the military went far beyond his acting role. In 1966, at the height of the Vietnam War, he demonstrated an extraordinary personal commitment to supporting real Marines by paying for his own trips to Vietnam to perform for the troops. This wasn't an official Safe USO tour. Sutton funded the trips himself and traveled to some of the most dangerous active combat zones, including Da Nang and Chu Lai, performing 56 shows in just 8 days. At a time when the war was becoming increasingly unpopular, Sutton chose to put himself at personal risk and spent his own money to bring a moment of laughter and morale support to the young Marines who were fans of his show. 5. Frank Sutton's tragic and theatrical final moments. Frank Sutton's life ended in the most theatrical, poignant, and heartbreaking way imaginable. On the evening of June 28, 1974, the 50-year-old actor, forever beloved as the fiery Sergeant Carter, suffered a fatal heart attack in his dressing room at the Beverly Barn Dinner Playhouse in Shreveport, Louisiana. He passed away just minutes before he was scheduled to take the stage for that evening's performance. In the 1970s, the dinner theater circuit was a popular path for television stars, allowing audiences in smaller cities to see their favorite actors live. Sutton had been starring in a touring production of the hit comedy play Louvre, drawing enthusiastic crowds eager to see their favorite TV Marine in person. On that tragic evening, the audience had already been seated and had finished their dinners. The low hum of conversation filled with anticipation for the show to begin. They were completely unaware of the frantic drama unfolding just a few feet away, behind the curtain. When theater staff discovered Sutton unconscious in his dressing room, a wave of panic ensued. Medical help was called, but it was too late. The production team then faced the heartbreaking and surreal task of walking onto the stage, not to begin a comedy, but to inform a full house of fans that the man they had all come to see had just passed away, and that the evening's performance would have to be cancelled. The shocked and saddened audience filed out of the theater that night, having witnessed a moment of real-life tragedy far more dramatic than any scripted performance could have provided. Frank Sutton, who had always said that the warm feeling he got the first time he ever walked onto a stage made him know he wanted to be an actor for life, spent his final moments in the very place where he felt most at home, surrounded by the theatrical world that had defined his entire adult life and brought so much joy to millions. A fake gay. Wedding rumor destroyed 2 Hollywood friendships. In the deeply homophobic and paranoid Hollywood of the early 1970s, an actor's career could be destroyed by nothing more than a rumor. This is the tragic story of how a cruel, thoughtless prank completely and permanently destroyed the friendship between Jim Nabors and the legendary movie star Rock Hudson. Both men were massive stars, and both were secretly gay during an era when homosexuality was not just a taboo, but a career-ending liability. The trouble began when a gay couple in Huntington Beach, known for their elaborate and humorous annual party invitations, decided to create a fake wedding announcement as their gimmick for that year's gathering. They sent out hundreds of beautifully engraved, formal invitations announcing that guests were cordially invited to attend the wedding reception of Rock Hudson and Jim Nabors, even including a joke that Hudson would be taking Nabors' character name and becoming Rock Pyle. What was meant to be a cheeky, inside joke among a few hundred friends in the gay community quickly spiraled into a national scandal. The invitation was leaked, making its way beyond the original guest list and eventually landing in the hands of the press. A fan magazine, hungry for gossip, published a thinly veiled story that didn't mention names, directly but strongly hinted at the supposed secret. Wedding between 2 of Hollywood, as big as Bachelor stars. The rumor spread like wildfire across the country. Both Hudson and Nabors were utterly horrified. They were trapped. To publicly deny the rumor might only draw more attention to it, and to remain silent might be seen as a confirmation. Both men feared that the scandal would destroy the carefully constructed, public personas that their careers depended upon in an industry that was deeply and systematically hostile to gay performers. The situation became so toxic that both actors considered filing massive lawsuits. For libel and slander, Jim Nabors, in a rare 1971 interview, described the experience as a nightmare, a bad dream, calling the rumor so ridiculous, yet so horrible. The two men, who had previously been casual but friendly acquaintances and had appeared together at public events, made the painful but professionally necessary decision to completely sever all ties. They cut off all contact with each other, never speaking again, in a desperate attempt to create social distance and stop the rumors from gaining more credibility. A single cruel joke, born from a thoughtless prank, destroyed a friendship and serves as a heartbreaking reminder of the immense fear and pressure that gay actors lived under in that era. 3. The show deliberately and completely ignored the Vietnam War. In one of the most deliberate and significant acts of cultural avoidance in television history, the sitcom Gomer Pyle, U.S.M.C. completely and totally ignored the existence of the Vietnam War throughout its entire 5-year run, from 1964 to 1969. This was not an oversight or a coincidence. It was a conscious and calculated decision by the show's creators and the network to keep their light-hearted military comedy completely separate from the controversial, deeply divisive, and increasingly unpopular real-world conflict that was tearing America apart. This omission is absolutely striking when you consider the timeline. The show premiered in September 1964, just 1 month after the Gulf of Tonkin incident, the very event that led to the massive escalation of American military involvement in Southeast Asia. During the show's 5-year run, American troop levels in Vietnam skyrocketed from around 23,000 to over 500,000 soldiers. The U.S. Marine Corps, the very branch the show was celebrating, was playing a crucial and bloody role in major battles and operations like Da Nang, Khe Sanh, and the Tet Offensive. These events were being broadcast for the first time in history into American living rooms every single night on the evening news, showing the brutal and horrific reality of combat. Meanwhile, on the same network, audiences could switch the channel to watch Gomer Pyle get into harmless trouble during basic training exercises, engage in romantic complications on weekend passes, and create comedic misunderstandings with Sergeant Carter. The show existed in a bizarre and surreal bubble of peacetime nostalgia, creating a sanitized and completely fictional version of military service that had absolutely nothing to do with the harsh realities facing actual Marines of that era. This deliberate silence was part of the show's broader, unstated mission to serve as what producers called a cultural antidepressant for the American public. The creators and the network believed that viewers, exhausted by the stress and political division of the war, wanted escapist entertainment that reminded them of a simpler, more patriotic time. They didn't want a television show that reflected the complex and troubling realities of current events. They wanted a refuge, and so Gomer Pyle, U.S.M.C. became one of the most popular shows in the country, a comforting fantasy of military life where the biggest threat was a grumpy sergeant, not a hidden enemy in a jungle a world away. The real Marines in the opening credits who were later killed in Vietnam. This is, without a doubt, the most tragic and poignant secret of the entire series, a heartbreaking collision of Hollywood fantasy and the brutal reality of war. The show's memorable and cheerful opening sequence, which features an out-of-step Jim Nabors as Gomer, marching in formation with his fellow recruits, was filmed at the Marine Corps Recruit Depot in San Diego. The men you see marching alongside Gomer in those credits were not actors or paid extras. They were genuine, real-life Marine recruits who were actually going through basic training in 1965 when the sequence was filmed. They were young men, barely out of their teens, who had no idea they were participating in what would become one of the most recognizable opening sequences in television history. One Marine who was actually present during the filming, a member of Platoon 130, later recalled the surreal experience. He remembered marching directly behind Jim Nabors for hours, from 7:30 in the morning until 2:30 in the afternoon, just to capture those few perfect seconds of footage. He even mentioned that the recruits got into trouble with their drill instructors afterwards for laughing and breaking formation during the filming, amused by the antics of the television star in their ranks. As the Vietnam War intensified throughout the mid to late 1960s, many of these same young, fresh-faced men who appeared smiling and marching in the cheerful, patriotic opening credits every week were deployed to the jungles of Southeast Asia. Tragically, a number of them were later killed in combat. Jim Nabors later spoke in interviews about how, as the war progressed, watching his own show's opening sequence became an emotionally painful and heartbreaking experience for him. He was haunted by the knowledge that some of the smiling, anonymous young men marching right alongside him, immortalized forever on television, had made the ultimate sacrifice for their country in a very real war that his own show, in a strange and sad irony, refused to even acknowledge. 1. The show's star, Jim Nabors, was a closeted gay man in a hyper-masculine world, the single most profound, ironic, and at the time, deeply hidden secret of Gomer Pyle. USMC was the true identity of its star. Jim Nabors, the man who so perfectly and so convincingly embodied the naive, gentle, all-American country boy, and who became a national icon of wholesome, family-friendly entertainment, was a gay man. In the deeply homophobic and intolerant era of the 1960s, this was a secret he had to guard with his life, both personally and professionally. An exposure would not have just been a scandal, it would have been the immediate and total end of his career. The profound irony of his situation is staggering. Nabors was playing the ultimate symbol of traditional, rural American masculinity, a U.S. Marine, during the "don't ask, don't tell" era, all while hiding his true self from the world. The very fake gay wedding rumor with Rock Hudson was so damaging and terrifying precisely because it threatened to expose a truth that was considered career suicide. For decades, Nabors lived a quiet, private life with his long-term partner, Stan Cadwallader, whom he had met in 1975. It wasn't until 2013, after the state of Washington legalized same-sex marriage, that the two were finally able to get married, and Nabors publicly acknowledged his relationship for the first time at the age of 82. The fact that the man playing Gomer Pyle, a character so innocent he seemed almost asexual, a figure beloved by conservative heartland America, was himself a closeted gay man, adds an incredible and poignant layer of complexity to the show's legacy. He brought boundless joy and laughter to millions of people every week, all while living under the immense and constant psychological pressure of hiding his own identity from a world and an industry that would not have accepted him. His iconic, cheerful, and deeply funny performance is not just a testament to his talent as an actor, but a remarkable decades-long act of personal and professional survival. Gomer Pyle, USMC, presented itself to the world as a simple, light-hearted, and almost cartoonishly innocent comedy, a gentle and welcome escape from the intense turmoil of the 1960s. But as these incredible and often hidden secrets reveal, it was a show that was deeply and often tragically entangled with the harshest realities of its time. Behind the innocent laughter was the long, dark shadow of a real and brutal war, the private pain of real-life tragedies, and the profound, unspoken irony of closeted actors and Jewish refugees portraying the very symbols of the American military establishment. The show's most enduring and fascinating legacy is not just its comedy, which remains beloved to this day, but this incredible and complex tapestry of hidden human truths. It stands as a powerful testament to the resilience of its cast, who navigated their own personal demons and historical traumas while creating a work of pure joy. It is a fascinating cultural artifact of an era that was far more complicated, painful, and contradictory than the simple black and white image it so often projected on our television screens. In the end, what makes Gomer Pyle USMC so remarkable is not just the jokes, but the profound human stories that were quietly and courageously hidden just behind them.